Antifa beats journalists. Antifa attacks our police stations. They attack our courthouses. They dox our law enforcement officers. No more. They are a terrorist group, and we are coming after them.
We are here at the White House today to unmask Antifa, to follow the money all the way to the top. If you want to get to the bottom of who is fomenting this chaos and violence in our country, you must follow the money.
I was a mainstream reporter in Seattle for 10 years before I quit mainstream media, in part due to its refusal to acknowledge the dangers of Antifa and radical left-wing violence.
Part of the problem that we have is that a lot of people refuse to believe that Antifa is real, is just a made-up thing, but I have seen them. They are real, they are dangerous, and they are violent.
They are an organized, systemic, international criminal enterprise. And what the FBI is going to do is trace the money, follow the funds, and find every single person that was involved in funding the riots and the violent acts of criminality that they are perpetrating on our street.
It's funny to hear Kash Patel say this because the U.S. State Department is funding Antifa. It doesn't exist. This is the U.S. intelligence agencies creating a fake group to label anybody who speaks out against what they're doing and call them Antifa. Just like during Trump's administration, anybody who was vocal on the internet, they claimed were Russians and they were Russian interference. It was trying to prevent him from taking office again. It's absurd. Basically, anybody within the public who's vocal will be labeled Antifa.
I've watched Antifa brutally beat, harass, and threaten Americans in the street, but all of that ends with the Trump administration.
I was brutally attacked and almost killed by Antifa in the streets of Seattle. All of my colleagues have been attacked. I can't think of a single one who hasn't. Violence against journalists and police officers in our streets can't stand.
Just days ago, I was in the Portland jailhouse, and now I'm in the White House. This administration is built different, and Antifa's days are numbered.
And I want to thank President Donald Trump for designating Antifa a terrorist organization, and I'm looking forward to the FBI and the DOJ hunting down these people like the terrorists that they are.
All I gotta say, it's a bad day to be Antifa.
And Antifa's days of using violence and intimidation against their political opposition are over.
And I've continued to report on them over the years, despite the threats of violence and actual violence that's happened, because I owe a thank you to this country, the United States, for settling my parents who were victims of communism in Vietnam.
1 month ago, Charlie Kirk was murdered by a violent leftist. We all saw it, and we all saw thousands of leftists celebrate it. Antifa symbols were found on the bullet casings of the gun used to shoot and kill my friend.
We won't take it anymore. President Trump is not going to stand for it. And I'm so grateful that we have a leader in the White House that understands how we need to fight these sophisticated networks and how we need to take these terrorists out.
I've been attacked by Antifa, doxxed by Antifa, harassed by Antifa, but we're not standing down. We're now coming for you.
This dude's a plant. He says some things that are leftist, and then he turns around and calls himself communist and socialist, and it's basically they create the same division. If you look back at the HUAC trials in the 1930s and this anti-communism bullshit that they spread, what they were doing was removing anybody who would stand up against what they're doing, even back then. Antifa is a name that was resurrected from the 1930s, from the it's Weimar Republic with a W, not Weimar. That's the German enunciation. This dude is essentially doing the same thing that Alwister Crowley did to draw the American people into World War I. He was a British intelligence agent that came to the United States, and he was a known Satanist. And so he would say things to stand up for the people, things from a left position, and then they would conflate that with Satanism. So they do the same thing later on, conflating with communism. Now Antifa is the new word, the new pronoun to describe communism, but essentially doing the same thing. If you look up the Red Scare, you will find out all the information of what they did. They infiltrated the colleges, the newspapers, every institution of influence, churches. There's several of them.
This is the type of video you would see in the beginning of a dystopian movie. This is the type of video that is played in The Hunger Games. This is nightmare level shit. And I need you to understand, you might be thinking to yourself, this doesn't affect me. I'm not a member of Antifa. Yes, you are. Antifa is not a group. If you do not support fascism, you are in Antifa. If you do not support Israel, you are in Antifa. If you step out of line, you are in Antifa. There's one last little clip I want to show you before we end this, and it is just talking about how these people are Nazis, and they are saying it with their own fucking lips.
Yesterday, the White House hosted a propaganda meeting where they... And I want you to listen to this clip of him.
So Jack Posobiec was one of the conservatives that were in that roundtable, that anti-Antifa roundtable. And it's funny because anti-Antifa just means fascism. Antifa means anti-fascism. To call yourself anti-Antifa is to say that you are anti-fascism, which by proxy means you are fascist. Now, please watch.
At the roundtable, and hear what he says about Antifa at the end.
Mr. President, thank you so much for having us here today and holding this roundtable. Antifa is real. Antifa has been around in various iterations for almost 100 years in some instances, going back to the Weimar Republic in Germany.
What he just said was that Antifa goes back to the Weimar Republic in Germany. The Weimar Republic was the German government that the Third Reich, that Hitler took over and turned into the Nazi regime. This man is saying that anti-fascists have been around since the Weimar Republic. He is directly comparing Antifa today to the anti-fascists during the rise of the Nazis in Germany, which by proxy means you view yourselves...
Not you, the public, but you, the administration. The administration views itself as the Fourth Reich.
As the rising Nazis. You view yourselves as the Third Reich. That is what that fucking means.
Yesterday, he filed charges against current New York Attorney General Letitia James because she led an investigation into Trump's fraudulent business dealings. Do you see where we're at right now? In the middle of an honest-to-God authoritarian regime. And it's disgusting to see that felon destroy our country.